This podcast will bring light to Hmong-owned businesses so that as consumers, we are confident to give them our business. And as businesses, we become a reliable and trustworthy source to our community. In addition, this podcast serves as a platform to build awareness for Hmong entrepreneurs and businesses while being able to connect with Hmong people all over the world. I see this as an amazing way to grow our Hmong community together and advance into the next era, where Hmong communities are supporting Hmong businesses and Hmong businesses are giving back to their community. Now, I'm excited to share with you the heartbeat of Hmong entrepreneurs, where I connect with Hmong businesses all over to learn more about who they are, what's their business, and how we can give them our support. But most importantly, it's about what makes their heart beat. This is how we can support each other in a growing and evolving community. As a wise man once said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So let's get rocking. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Heartbeat of Hmong Entrepreneurs. I am your host, Josh. I am excited to have with me Christian, man. He is awesome. He is a certified master firearms instructor through the Range Master program, and he's constantly training courses to improve his skills, right? So obviously, if you want to be a master of something, you've always got to be trained. You always got to be learning. So that's what he does. I personally have taken a course from him, made it very super easy to stay along as well, and is very good at teaching too. I really, really much enjoyed it. But today we have Christian. Christian, thank you and welcome to the Heartbeat of Hmong Entrepreneurs, man.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's good to be here. It's good to talk to you.
So tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So a little bit about myself. So I'm over here in North Carolina. Pretty much been here all my life. Spent some time over in St. Paul. Um, and right now I'm doing a ton of different things. I like to keep myself busy. So in terms of like entrepreneurship, I am doing things such as I've got my firearms training company, which is Mountain Tribe Development. So we teach firearms classes. And then on top of that, I am also teaching cybersecurity classes as well. I'm doing a full-time day job as a senior cybersecurity engineer. I'm also doing a lot of real estate stuff too. So I have about six rental properties that I manage. So that's just like a lot of the upkeep. So that's a lot of stuff that me and my dad just kind of do by ourselves. So whether it's patching a roof or installing a toilet or, fixing drywall or painting, we kind of do everything ourselves. And so I'm always constantly busy and I'm always trying to find, what are some new things that I can do and trying to dip my hand into. So I don't know how I find the time, but I kind of manage somehow.
How do you find the time?
I have a really good wife. That's kind of my secret. I work from home too. So since I work full-time remote, that kind of allows me to, some in between downtime, I can work on some side projects as well. So I've I like to keep myself busy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Dude, you sounds like you have been keeping yourself super busy. And since the last time like I talked to you, which was probably a long while ago, like you've already like dipped your hands into a bunch of other different stuff as well too. Now tell me about, like how did you get into like instructing?
So gosh, ever since I was a kid, so I grew up in church and so I volunteered a lot and, I would teach different programs, especially teaching kids stuff. And when you're able to kind of teach kids, that really helps you in being able to take big ideas and how do you kind of squeeze them down into small bite-sized packages. I spent some time teaching elementary school too, working with the YMCA, a lot of after-school programs. And so we would do like science projects. We would do um, like computer stuff. We would do a little basic intro level programming things for students using there's this fun program called Scratch. So we would teach the kids that. So if you can take big things and then explain it to a 7-year-old, well, then it makes it much easier to explain it to somebody who is in their teens or in the 20s or 30s or 40s, right? Because the concept's essentially the same, right? How do I take this whole concept, right, break it down to its fundamental parts, and how do I explain it to you? And a lot of people, they don't realize that teaching and being good at something are two separate skills, right? A lot of times people will say that, those who can't teach, right? And it's a put down on teachers, but there are some really, really skilled people who are also excellent teachers, excellent instructors, right? And there are also some people who are very skilled who are terrible instructors. And so they're two separate skills, but it's something that I very much enjoy doing. And so half of the things that I do is just teaching, whether it's gun classes or doing cybersecurity classes at night that I'm teaching. That's what I do.
That's probably one of the things that maybe like I find myself having a hard time doing is also like teaching. Not that I guess can't teach, but you kind of process it in your mind like, okay, so how do I start this, and how do I want to do it based on the outcome of what I'm teaching? If you had to break it down to like maybe three of your favorite strategies on how to teach, what would they be?
Oh, that's a great question. I guess number one is understand the perspective of the student, right? And so when I was getting into computer networking and cybersecurity, one of the things that always frustrated me is that like the instructor would always be like, why don't you guys understand this? The book says this, I said this, why don't you understand it? But for the instructors, they were in that position of, they've been doing this for 10, maybe 20 years, right? So that concept very easy for them, right? But you're talking about students who we've only been doing this for like 2 weeks, right? You cannot expect us to understand some pretty high level concepts and after only 2 weeks, right? So number one is understanding the perspective of the student, right? And that's one of the things that really frustrates me in the way that people teach that I understand it. Why don't you get it? Okay. So I think that yeah, we should be able to kind of go down to that level of the student and that they're learning, and they'll be able to teach things from their perspective. Um, Number two is I'm very student focused. And so on top of being able to teach from the student's perspective, what I like to do is I like to focus on, what are things that are hindering my students from learning, right? So an example of that, like in our cybersecurity classes, me and my friend Alex, we're the two instructors for this course. We were looking at it and we're like, okay, we were in that position that they were in too. What are some of the things that would have helped us when we were learning, right? And so it's a lot of small, simple things. Okay. Number one is just being understanding that if you were to go to university, right? Most of the professors, if you miss a class because you are sick, or maybe you've got a funeral to go to, or maybe a very close family is very sick, right? It is very difficult to try to reschedule things or try to get them to, help you out, right? A lot of very tenured professors, they don't care for you, and they kind of make it obvious that they don't care for you. Okay, so for like the classes that I teach, if a student needs a reschedule, no problem, right? Even for like our cybersecurity classes, some of the important things that I feel that really helps elevate our class is that our lectures are recorded. Okay, so if you miss a class because you're sick or your kids are sick, your family's sick, well, then you can catch up on that. We do small things like, our students come to class, we feed them, right? Nobody feeds their students, but our classes, we're doing night classes. So a lot of our students, they're coming in from work, working full-time jobs and having families. So we feed them. Our classrooms are stocked with like food, coffee, drinks, sodas, stocked with, we keep a fridge full of like frozen pizzas, burritos. We have like tons of different selection of like ramen noodles, just very simple stuff. We just take care of them because a lot of times, especially like higher institutional level learning, it's just like, here's a really nice building we spent millions of dollars on, all right? Come here, learn. If you're not there, we don't care. Get out, right? And so I feel like academia nowadays, it's very lacking in this is a whole different thing. But I feel that a lot of students, they're very unprepared for the real world, right? And then when we actually look into like hiring numbers, um, a lot of a lot of hiring managers, they don't even care to look at college students because they also feel like college students don't have the skills necessary to succeed in these jobs, right? So the point is, why are the students spending so much time and money at universities which don't really care if they get jobs or not, applying for jobs that don't want them, right? Because they are not taught the skills necessary to do the jobs. So that kind of goes hand in hand with helping the students actually achieve their goals. Okay. So number one, I said that. teach from the student's perspective. Number two is being able to help them and actually like legitimately care about what are things that I can do to make your learning experience better. Okay. And then I would say one of one of the things that I think is very important for the way I teach is follow through. Okay. And so what I mean by follow through is that when I teach, I always tell my students that I like to do holistic teaching, right? The whole way through, right? So from the first day of class where you don't understand anything, maybe you don't know how to handle a firearm, or you don't know anything about like basic IT stuff, right? All from that all the way up until the end, that they are getting ready to do the job itself, right? We help our students. They're always able to kind of reach out to us, and we're always available as a resource to them. Um, so I think those are some of the things that are very important to me about the way that I teach, that my students, they have help like every step of the way.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that, dude. Now, how would you say you like implement that in your firearms teaching?
So coming from like the firearms training side, number one, like I said, is understanding the perspective of the students. I teach a lot of like entry level firearm stuff, and so you've got you've got a lot of different mindsets, right? And so when I teach, I always say that when it comes to firearms, the only well, let me rephrase that. Everything most everyone knows about guns comes from a rectangle, right? Whether it is a movie or from video games or from TV shows, right? That's pretty much where most everyone builds their experience with firearms. And so when they come into one of my gun classes, right, we kind of have to unlearn all the things that you have been taught by just all the entertainment you have seen pretty much your whole life, right? And so we have to come into this perspective that, okay, there's probably a lot of assumptions made by students. On top of that, a lot of people they come in and they have this idea of, my uncle was a police officer, he taught me this, or my dad was in the military and he taught me this, right? And how do I teach? Well, how do I undo like a lot of the maybe unsafe behaviors or maybe outdated techniques that a lot of people have, right? So that comes into what is the perspective of the students, right? The person who knows nothing about firearms and safety, or the student who has been taught a lot of either unsafe or outdated information when it comes to handling firearm safety. Um, and continue on along with that. As I'm teaching these firearms classes to the students, I like to provide a lot of resources online. So I do like training videos online, and I share a lot of these concepts online too. That kind of boosts my social media presence, and it kind of gives them some reference for things that they can learn on. One of the things that when I teach, especially my firearms classes, since they tend to be like a 1 or 2 day affair, you're not going to get a lot better in like a 1 or 2 day class, right? So if you were to say take a class with like Tom Brady, right? Do you think you can throw a football as well as Tom Brady after one day? No. But if he's a good teacher, he can probably show you these are the things that I do to throw a football better, right? And so that's what I tell my students that I can't teach you how to be a pro shooter in 1 or 2 days. I myself, I'm not quite a pro shooter yet. I'm working on it. Um, I'm getting to the competition space next year, and I've set some goals for yeah, I've set some goals to achieve. I would like to be a pretty high class shooter. Um, but going back to that, I can't teach you to be a pro in 1 or 2 days, but what I can do is I can help you make some breakthroughs, right? Some breakthroughs in understanding there are some deficiencies in what you're doing right now. And how do I kind of change that mentality of what you're doing? And how do I show you the proper way to approach things?
Like just listening to you, I can like also imagine like what your mind might be going through. I'm sure there's so many things that you have to think about from different angles, trying to think about what kind of person this person is. Let's say a lot of women, right? I think, I think they want to learn how to do like shoot guns, but they're so scared about shooting a gun. Some of them are even just scared at the sight of a gun. And so, but they know that they need to probably come to maybe a class that you do, and it's going to help them get better at being more comfortable at it. And I found out that one thing, especially like my wife, right? I found out that she was way more comfortable with guns now after the class that we took with you. Before that, I couldn't even get her to just hold an empty gun, you know? But after we actually paid for the course, right? So now you got a skin in the game, and then you attend the course, and then she gets to hold and see everybody else hold the guns and everything, and play with it, touch it. She's like way much more comfortable with being around it. Of course, she still has that feeling of like being frightened and still scared, but at least she's willing to actually touch the gun, now. And then so it makes it just more comfortable. And it kind of goes back to like what you're saying is like you can, no matter what you do, you're not going to be a pro or really good at what you do or be comfortable around something within 2 days, right? So it's a matter of like consistency, practice holding a gun, practice drawing a gun, just touching the gun, being familiar with it in your hands and your palms and stuff. So those have been very, very super helpful. So talk to me about the different courses that you provide in your firearms training.
It's something where I'm looking to build different levels of skills myself, right? Now, it comes back to the idea of you don't know what you don't know. And so this is so very true, especially in the firearms training space. There is a psychology effect called a Dunning-Kruger effect. And so the Dunning-Kruger effect is essentially for many people, the less they know about a topic, the more they kind of think they know about it. So, like, take for example, right? There's a big boxing match a few weeks ago, right?
Oh yeah.
Uh, yes, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, right? So all of a sudden, everybody is an expert in boxing, and they're like, "Oh, Mike Tyson, he's chewing on his glove because he's scared and he's trying not to punch too hard, right?" But then you talk to people who are actual fighters, and they'll say, "No, that's actually one of his kind of his more signature techniques, right? And that helps him like keep his guard up and stuff, right?" So you got everybody coming out from the whip and be like, "Oh, okay, this round he needs to focus on this, he needs to do that, blah 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 blah," right? And so right, everybody is a pro boxer after watching like one or two matches. Okay. Same thing is very true for firearms, right? We take in kind of all these biases of all that we've learned from media and entertainment and all that, a lot of times outdated information we've learned from family, right? Just my own personal biases. When I started, I thought it was hot stuff because I mostly taught myself just based on YouTube videos. There's a lot of good information out there in YouTube. The problem is that there's no way to correct yourself based on a YouTube video. You just kind of follow along, right? And so I was decent. I was taking a lot of local classes with military, former law enforcement guys, and I felt like I was really hot stuff because I could outshoot pretty much most of the local instructors who were like military law enforcement backgrounds. So I felt like I was really hot stuff. Now, you saw that on my profile. I'm listed as like a master certified instructor under the Range Master program. So when I took the Range Master course, that's when now I was exposed to more national level instructors. Okay, so the quality of the instructors there who were taking that class too, it jumped up much higher, and I was humbled very quickly, right? And realizing that, man, a lot of the technique I've been learning, it's kind of sucks, right? And I thought it was hot stuff, but it's being a big fish in a small pond type of situation, right? And I realized that, man, yeah, I fell into that trap. I fell into that same exact Dunning-Kruger trap of I thought it was hot stuff because I did not know what I did not know. So going back into like the type of courses that I want to teach, handgun and civilian, just regular everyday people carrying a concealed carry pistol for self-defense. That's my bread and butter. Okay. Because I feel like that's gonna be like the most commonplace. Well, actually, let me take a step back. When I teach my classes, I always teach the concept of there's only one gun that matters. And the only one gun that matters is the one that you have immediately available to you, right? Because you don't get to pick the time or place bad things happen to you. You only get to pick when you are prepared for it. Okay. So since I teach concealed carry, I teach my students that you should be very good with your concealed carry firearm, right? Because if that's the one that you have available to you, that's the one that you're going to rely on if something bad happens. So that tends to be the bulk of what I teach, and I'm very proud of the classes that we've set up for it and the curriculum that I have for it. I also do more of the fun tactical stuff. So we do rifle courses. I'm starting to get into shotgun stuff now. You might have seen I've been posting me practicing shotgun shooting. So I'm getting pretty good with the shotgun as well. And then we do some of the more higher end tactical stuff. Like we're doing night vision stuff, getting into that. That gets on the higher end because it gets pretty pricey when you start getting into night vision stuff. So not as many people doing stuff like that because it's there's a high barrier of entry getting into like night vision tactical stuff. But yeah, when it comes down to like the type of classes I'm teaching, mostly I am centered on, how do I train regular people to be safe with firearms and to use them effectively to protect themselves and their loved ones, right? Some guys are out there, they got law enforcement, military backgrounds. They're teaching like door kicking and room sweeping and, long range precision sniper stuff, right? Which is cool, but not necessarily applicable to say like the single mom living in an apartment, right? And somebody is trying to kick down her door. Okay. And so those are the type of people that I try to target more. Just regular everyday people, and they want to learn how to use a firearm safely and effectively.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that is really very, very beneficial for a lot of people. And I know that, obviously, people sometimes get robbed and people get their homes breaking into, and they are just everyday regular people who needs to be protected. And so 100%, man. I love that that's the target audience that you are working with because those are the people that probably needs it the most. I can't imagine, like I can't imagine, but I guess I can't believe that I've seen so many like or heard of so many incidents where like somebody drew a gun on someone when they're getting robbed, or somebody is trying to rob someone, or someone's about to get held hostage or something, and someone had a concealed carry and saved the day, of course, in a sense, right? So I mean, those are just like those incidences where this really, really matters. And hopefully it never happens to any one of us, but you just never know, like you said, that it would that it could happen to us. You just never know. So having that available and you providing that to the community is freaking awesome, man. So thank you for doing that. Really appreciate it. Do you have any like program or anything for people who say, hey, you know what, I want to, take a concealed carry class or whatnot, but I can't afford it, or how does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So on pretty much all of our concealed carry type of classes, we always say that there's, gosh, I got to double check and make sure that it's still there. But what I usually put is just a little note at the bottom that, if you would like to take this class and you are in financial need or hardship, then yeah, just let me know, and then we'll give you a big discount on it. Because, like I said, a lot of people, well, I should say that there's it can be kind of difficult to find good information on how to use firearms safely and effectively. And so ultimately what I enjoy doing the most is I really enjoy, helping the community to be safer, helping the community to kind of take care of itself. So that's actually a big part of what we do is, where are the students at, and what can we do to help them learn more effectively.
If somebody does want to take a course with you, how much would that cost, and then how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, yeah. So best way to get in touch with me is you can go to our website. You can either go to instructorkhang.com, or you can go to our main site, which is mountaintribedevelopment.com. Either of those, they both lead to the same place. You can also follow me online social media, Instagram, Facebook, under Instructor Khang. And then in terms of like prices for our classes, like our concealed carry class, it's only like $59 for the full day class. The one difficult part is that right now I'm only certified to teach for North Carolina. And so there are some people who reached out to me from different states. I can't certify you for concealed carry, but I can absolutely teach you concealed carry skills. So that's the only difference there, that I can't get you a certificate to get a concealed carry permit if you're not in North Carolina, But if you would like to learn, how to draw a handgun safely, how to carry a handgun in a holster concealed, and how to effectively use it, absolutely, I can teach those classes to you.
Nice, awesome. Now, are those part of the concealed carry classes, or are those separate classes? Like, if you want to get good at specific skill sets.
No, that's an excellent question. So for North Carolina, the concealed carry curriculum tends to be 80 to 90% legal. And so mostly covering laws. We get into like the very basic stuff of safe shooting. So we don't really get the chance to talk about, how to safely carry a concealed firearm or how to draw from a holster. That stuff, it's kind of hard to squeeze in because there's a very set, rigid curriculum that we have to cover. It's an 8-hour class, but you would be surprised like how much legal stuff that there is in this course. So yeah, in terms of is that a separate class? It tends to be. We have a defensive handgun class. Defensive handgun class, that is more of our entry level class. So like I said, drawing from a holster safely, learning how to have good grip, sight alignment, sight picture, stance, just being able to shoot effectively. And also we do force on force, right? So we actually do simulated scenarios. We're put on safety masks and we'll do training guns. And so we can get you a little bit of experience in, how would you or how should you react in a deadly threat type of scenario.
Now, do you guys do some things where, like, what if somebody grabs you from the back?
We do. One of the things for our classes that I try to make sure that we do is we try to be very grounded in reality. There's a lot of instructors who teach tactical ninja theory, and I try not to do that. And so when I say that teach things based in reality, I mean like, what can we actually pull from like a newspaper or watching from a news video or watching from like security camera videos? And what can we actually see? What are things that have actually happened to people, right? So some guys are like, okay, well, let's train. We're gonna wear like our full body armor and big rifles, and then here's what we're gonna do if we're attacked by like 20 people. And that's not a realistic scenario, but the type of training that we like to do is, what if you have a child in your arms? We'll get like a 10-pound, we get a 10-pound bag of sand, and we put it in baby clothes, right? You got a child in your arms, right? And a guy walks up to you with a knife, right? And is demanding money. Like, what do you do in that situation, right? And so something a little bit more grounded in reality. It's more of how do you kind of think your way through that situation, right? And so we can kind of mentally prepare you because every situation is so different. We cannot give you one solution that works in all cases. And so we need our students to kind of get past that stress barrier of not having that deer in the headlights kind of stare and then think, what are my options? What are my options? So that's why we like to do those force on force type of situations.
Now, see, those sounds fun, right? But then
They
also,
are, they are.
it's really it's like real realistic because those are real life situations that could possibly happen. Like, obviously, you're not going to see in the movie where somebody's getting robbed with a baby in their hands. Like, that's not just going to happen, because that's not very exciting. But in the real life, that is exactly what's probably going to happen. For one, I guess I haven't really looked into like a lot of firearms training, but I've also haven't heard of anyone who's known for simulating those type of scenarios in real life where you're able to really train in that too. How long are these classes?
Yeah, so North Carolina requires our concealed carry class to be 8 hours, so it can be a little bit of a long day. For our regular classes, they average about like 5 to 6 hours, so a little bit shorter. But it's going to take up most of your morning and afternoon, so we can fit a good amount of learning from a session from like about 9 to like 2 to 3 o'clock.
What if someone doesn't have a firearm to bring for the training and whatnot? Do you guys provide that as well?
Yeah, so for our concealed carry classes, we have rentals. And then a lot of times, people come to our classes and they're still learning about firearms. And so we're always happy to provide rentals for them because we have, number one, it gives me an excuse to buy more guns. Because I can always say, hey, this is a rental. So my wife, she's a little bit tired of that excuse. The other thing is that if you ever go to a gun store, there's just so many options out there. And what do you get? And so it's nice to have different options for the students so they can kind of learn of, this firearm is, maybe too big for concealed carry. This brand is very unreliable, or, what are some of the top brands that we recommend? So yeah, we do a rental fleet because we want to give good options for the students to kind of see for themselves what is out there.
Smaller hands, bigger hands. Do you have a variety available for that too?
Gotcha. No, that is an excellent question. So that tends to kind of be a sticking point for a lot of people where they think, my hands only fit certain types of guns. Generally, your hand and how it fits to a gun, it's not always the best indicator of if that is a good firearm for you, right? So when it comes down to it, some of the things I look for is that number one, I want people to get and train with a concealed carry type of handgun. That's going to be something a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact because as I mentioned before, the only gun that matters is the one that you have immediate access to, right? So that means that if it's something that you should have access to, typically it's something that's going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to conceal and carry on body. Okay. I don't really recommend carrying like in a bag or in a purse. It can be a bit easier for somebody to take that bag or purse, right? Sometimes that may be your only option, but it's not the most recommended option. So when I say firearms that I recommend for students, that's going to be things like the Glock 43 series or like the SIG P365 series. I have to be careful when I say stuff like this because some people are very opinionated in the type of guns that are out there. Those are two of my general recommendations, maybe like the Smith& Wesson M&P series or the M&P Shield series. Those are some good ones that I recommend. Um, but yeah. So I would say that those, in terms of like men and women and fitting guns to you, um, the hand fitment on the gun is not the most important thing. A lot of times people just say, hey, you're a lady, here is the smallest, tiniest gun possible. And the problem with that is that the smaller and tinier the gun is, the harder it is to shoot because it comes out to the physics of it, where the smaller the gun is within the same caliber, it's going to have more recoil than a larger gun in that same caliber. So smaller guns aren't necessarily better. It's better to get a gun that matches what you're trying to do. Okay. And kind of what I mean by that is getting a gun in a good caliber. I generally recommend 9mm for most everything. Other calibers, they're not, in my opinion, they're not going to be as well suited as 9mm. 9mm is a great go-to all-around caliber. Um, in terms of size. So what I mean by that is that for myself, I carry a Glock 19. It's going to be a little bit bigger. It's a compact size, so it's smaller than a full-size gun, but it's bigger than some of the more popular concealed carry guns out there. Right? It's going to be bigger than a P365. It's going to be bigger than a Glock 43. Right. Um, so when it comes down to it, the most important thing is training. If you don't train with it, it's not going to help you. Okay. So generally, as long as you get a good quality brand gun, you're okay. You're going to be okay. Right. What really matters is if you're training with it or not. There are some guys who have achieved grandmaster shooter status, shooting something as small as like a Glock 26, which is one of those tiny concealed carry guns, and
Wow.
that is incredible. So you can do it. It's very hard. That's very much a handicap, but he was able to do it, right? So yeah, it comes down to training. Just as long as you have decent equipment, the actual equipment itself is less important than the training, if that
Mm,
makes sense.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, you know what? That's actually perfect words for thoughts because we are actually running out of time right now. So, do you have any last words?
I guess some of my thoughts for wrapping up is that number one, be open to learning. That's one of the problems that we often run into, especially in the firearm space, is that people are stuck with a lot of old, outdated, or unsafe ideas. Be open to learning from other people, and vet your instructors too. Make sure that they have a good enough background that you can actually trust what they're saying. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Christian, thank you so much for being on the Heartbeat Among Entrepreneurs. It was amazing having you here, man. I really appreciate your time and thank you so much. I feel like I
Of
have to
course.
speak in Hmong because this is about Hmong people. So yeah, thank you so much. And this is all right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the Heartbeat of Hmong Entrepreneurs. My name is Josh, and I was very honored to have Christian here with me, and he's with the Mountain Tribe Development Firearms Instructor and Conceal Carry classes. And of course, he has a whole lot more things that he's dipping his hands into, but we'll definitely learn more about that on our other episodes. Hopefully, he'll come back and join us again. Have an awesome night, dude.
Thanks.
Before I let you go, I just want to thank all my listeners, future and past, all my guests for being here on our channel. Thank you so much. Now, if you love what I'm doing, for the cost of a cup of coffee per month, your support will help me continue on this mission to connect with Hmong entrepreneurs all over. But it also helped me to maintain this channel, the software, and equipment that's needed to make this the best possible experience for you, my listeners. Now, your support can be canceled at any time. Thank you so much for being a listener. Join me on my next episode. Take care for now. This podcast is sponsored by Marketing Executions, a digital marketing agency for local businesses. You can find out more at www.marketingexecutions.com.